actually right on time. Actually 100% right on time. Actually, you guys have nothing to say. That was 100% right on time. It's a miracle. I'm on a bit of a hot streak. Can we all acknowledge that? I'm on a slight hot streak, which is at least Thursday, I was on time. Thursday, I was on time. Today, I was on time. I don't really remember before that, but I like to think I was on time even last week, even the week before that. I think I've been on time. I think I've been actually pretty good with it last few times. You want to know why? Because I'm trying to improve the streaming experience overall, such as timeliness and mainly that. No, other things too. I've been talking about it, but there are things that I've ordered that are yet to be set up in the back, but soon you guys will like the background way better, and no one will have any complaints about the background whatsoever. Soon. Soon enough. All right, let's see. I want to do another little poll pretty soon. Fun 6000 says, Morge, I'm finally catching you live. I usually watch the re-upload. Yeah, that's what happens when I'm on time. Everybody can catch it. Zoro says, Mosley looks so fat. Okay, so, no joke whatsoever. I am a little worried. So, first of all, let me share this, all right? I don't know how long... Okay, long story. My shoulder has been hurting for quite some time now. 3-4 weeks, something like that. My shoulder has been hurting. That means that I started going to the gym on and off a little bit less. And then actually last Friday, I did go back probably too early, and I re-aggravated my shoulder really, really bad. So one, maybe I look a little fat because I haven't been... exercising much, but I've been eating the same amount, so that'll probably make you a little fat. Two, I am actually in severe pain right now. So it hurts sitting down and sitting up. Anything hurts unless I'm like actually lying flat on my back right now. So I don't know. I'm gonna just try and power through the stream, but if it keeps up for a little bit, then it'll keep up. What's up with the shoulder? Asks Alexander. So last year, I'm pretty sure I injured my rotator cuff, but in a very minor way. I'll show you with this arm instead. So rotator cuff, if you try and raise your arm or whatever, it'll hurt. Okay. I did that for this shoulder. That was last year. So then I spent a month just like recovering from that. It wasn't a huge deal, but that was basically it. So I was like, okay, so I think I'm fine. But I could always tell that something was slightly off, so it wasn't 100% recovered. So it was like a small, niggling little, like, little thing that I was always somewhat aware of. I'm like, if I overstrain that, I'll probably injure my rotator cuff again. And last few weeks I did. So last month I did, and then I made it worse a few times by exercising that shoulder again. And then this Friday I was like, okay, it's probably fine now. So then I went and I probably fucked it up. Gamma27 says, go to the doctor. Yeah, I honestly might. Also, like the stream. Parsa Mohan says, you need to work out more. Yeah, I don't know about that. Guys, like the stream. I'm probably just gonna... Yeah, I will get it checked. If it does not heal by... Well, I thought it was fine by last Friday, but it was really, really not. So if it doesn't feel better in a bit, then I'm probably going to go. Archie C says, do you think the fight is over? I mean, we could get one of those things where it's like narrator text box, Kaido was defeated or whatever. We could get one of those things. Narrator text box, Kaido defeated, but we also got one of those for Luffy. Do I think in general is the fight over? No. I obviously think, as I've been saying for a minute, that Kaido his flashback probably continues in some way and awakening comes with it. That's just the way things seem set up to me. But again, I've been saying this. 2 chapters is kind of the period of time that I think watching and waiting makes sense. I think after 1051, if they're like trying to make it really clear, like, hey, Kaido's done, and it's just over, then it's over. I think 1050 might be like, 1050 might be like a sense of victory chapter where we're getting reactions and stuff, and 1051 might be a turn. So 1050 I'm not too interested in as much, but 1051 will probably be where we can tell. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus says, the closer we get to the end of Wano, the closer we get to King being the next ride. Yo, some people were actually saying that, if you guys remember. Some people were actually saying that. Like, there were, no joke, people who were basically saying, that a Lunarian is going to join the crew because we have to have somebody of every race, right? I don't know if we have to have somebody of every race. We literally, Jinbei's the only, well, I guess Chopper's a reindeer. We've only got 3 races on the crew out of like the million races in the One Piece world. There's really only 3. DX Holder Red says, I feel like the end of 1050 could be hinting at a comeback. Yeah, I don't know how it'll play out necessarily. I have no idea. I'll wait and see like the rest of you guys. But I do think like 1050 probably like sense of victory, sense of everyone's feeling good. Then I think, if anything, 1051 might be a bit of a turn. Or, no, not a turn, but at the very least, maybe Kaido's flashback starts picking up in 1051 again. Or we get focused on Kaido again in some way, basically. Ivan back from the card shop says, if the arc ends now, One Piece is no longer top 1. I mean, okay, let me get people's opinions. How did you all feel? How did you all like the chapter, if this is the end? Assuming this is the end. Great. Pretty good. Well, we say amazing. Amazing. Pretty good. What's the other options? Good. Okay. I can only do 4 options. Okay, hold on. Let's do great, good, fine, bad. Let's see what the people have to say. And obviously my people are a little more biased than the average people. But that's just the way it is. Sausage Lord says, just binged watched your raid fail videos and loved them. If the raid doesn't fail, will you become the emu of the One Piece community? No, I think it's the other way around. If the raid does fail, then I become the emu of the One Piece community. If the raid doesn't fail, then I think I become, I don't even know. I don't really know what happens. We'll find out. What's funny is that I think a lot of people, I keep forgetting, but a lot of people have already assumed that, like, lots of times when I talk about the raid failing again, or if I tweet it or something, many people are like surprised or confused. So you get a lot of people being like, they don't know that I still believe the raid will fail. They're like, what? Man, I thought you were over this like 3 months ago. You're still saying this? So like, there's a lot of people in the community who aren't even aware that the raid fail train is still going. So a lot of people have assumed that I'm back to my normal content. And sometimes if I do a video on something, like I'll just do a random video or whatever. And then I'm on a streak of doing normal videos. And then one video mentions the raid failing. And then people in the comments are just like, whoa, what? You're still talking about this? So like, even among my own viewers, a lot of people are still out of the loop a little bit that like, whoa, this is still going on. All right, so you got a mix. So from at least people here, not many think it's great. Some people think it's good. We got 25% saying good. Majority say it was fine. Only 24% say it's bad. So that's a good sign, I guess, if you believe that it's over here. So not too many people think it's bad. Sean Easton says, thanks for all the great content, man. Thank you, Sean. Just graduated from college with a double bachelor's in marketing and CIS. Also better go to the doctor and check. The thing is, last time I didn't go to the doctor. So I'm relying on my experience from last time. And life experience is something that no amount of health insurance can buy you, right? So my life experience from last time was I left it alone for a while, and then it mostly got better. I say mostly because obviously I re-aggravated it. But The lesson was sometimes you can just wait it out and your shoulder will get better. That's a valuable, note that down. Guys, take notes. That's probably one of the most valuable things I can teach you. In my years of life, that's something I learned last year. Now, maybe I will have some revised notes for you guys next week if my shoulder is continuing to be bad and I realize that a doctor is the way to do it. But at the moment, I don't know if that's the right route. I just don't know. Let's get the stream likes to 400. If we get the stream likes to 400, the raid will fail. That's a promise to you. Cigarverk says, even if Kaido awakens, I guess raid still succeeds. Some people might intervene for some time, and then Luffy comes back to finish. I mean, depending on how it's done, I think that could still be an exciting ending. Although I think, to me, it's like the sense of where we're at now, I 100% agree with most people who are like, the act should wrap up soon. Otherwise, it gets to a point where it's starting to drag, and the dramatic momentum kind of just like, it needs to come to a head in some way or another. I personally don't think that this was that climactic. I know a lot of people feel the same way, obviously. That sense of anticlimax to me, as along with many other reasons, which I'll probably talk about in Friday's video, indicates to me that, things are going to turn around and Kaido is going to win. Otherwise, it's a little weird if, like, you give Luffy this sort of victory, but then Kaido gets back up and then Luffy has to do it again. I think it makes more sense if you give Luffy a victory, turns out to be a hollow victory, reverse it, Kaido wins. That makes more sense flow-wise to me. Otherwise, why not just build to a more dramatic Luffy victory in the first place rather than do one win that's a fake out but also has build-up and stuff? You know what I mean? So, to me, no matter what, either way, I personally think that the act has to end here one way or another in the next, 10, 15 chapters. Otherwise, it's just probably, honestly, 10 chapters or so, right? Otherwise, I think it's getting quite a bit. Not even just, like, length, because I don't really think that, like, the chapter length is what matters so much. Is kind of what is the dramatic momentum? Like, where's the dramatic flow at? Does it feel like things need to come to a conclusion soon or not? And we definitely are at a point where things need to come to a conclusion in one way or another. So to me, it's like, I always will like the idea of, like, the Straw Hats having to fight Kaido for a bit or whatever. Straw Hats having to fight Kaido for a bit. Or Luffy being, for once, like, in a state where he's not absolutely certain that, like, this is a cakewalk that he's just going to take care of business or whatever. Luffy actually getting shaken for a moment, as we usually see in many other arcs, which we don't really see here in Wano whatsoever at any point. We've never seen Luffy shaken or discouraged at any point in Wano. We've seen him knocked unconscious, but that is not the same thing as what I'm saying, right? So I do think that that's something that I hope we get, but I also don't know how much I would like it if it's, like, at the expense of dragging out the current situation just to get to another Luffy win pretty soon. But we'll have to see. Vapor Babe says, have you noticed that all inanimate objects that ate a fruit are zoans? Maybe they can only have zones because of them having a will of their own. That is actually a really, really, really cool theory. That's actually a really, really cool idea. That's a really cool reason for it. I just assumed that Oda just liked that little gimmick of, like, I mean, I actually honestly didn't really even think about it. For a good while, I remember many people theorized that, including myself, I was under this impression that Fujitora's sword might have eaten a gravity devil fruit. I was under that impression. But at this point, that no longer looks to be the case. I mean, actually, not even that. It was confirmed that's not the case, right? Zaibatsu says, I think it would be extremely weird for Luffy to have multiple fake-out defeats and not have even one for Kaido. Am I alone on that? You're definitely not alone. Not in this chat. Fabrizio Chiampi says... Chiampi? I don't know how to pronounce this name. Fabrizio Chiampi says, when are you going to release top 10 One Piece fanfics you promised us? Right after I do the Bollywood dance. As soon as I finish that. Unajoggable says, out of the YouTube mods, I've always been the most team raid not fail. The most team raid not fail. With Luffy losing again, Kaido awakens, people want to join in, but 1049 has me convinced. Good to know. What's hilarious is 1049 brought out the biggest mix. It brought out so many people who were like, it's crazy. From everything I was seeing, Twitter reactions, people coming to chat, etc., basically, it brought out by far the most people who were like wanting to dance on my grave and be like, you're wrong, etc., blah, 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 ha, 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 etc., right? Brought out many of those people, raid succeeded, lol. And then I saw so many people who were also like, I've changed my mind. I didn't believe this before, but raid's gonna fail. Saw many people being like, now I don't know, etc. So it swung a lot of people differing ways. It's a pretty polarizing chapter in that sense. Nerve AMV Maker says, if the fight is over, what was the point of Yamato giving that speech about how he has to defeat Kaido and that she will die with him if need be? Your guess is as good as mine. If I had to guess, I would say that there's still more to go for this arc. For example, Momonosuke literally... Forget... I could talk about Momonosuke's moment and how... If that was the end, I think there's no debate that the Momonosuke moment was like probably the least dramatic thing any of us could ever have imagined, right? If this is actually the end, right? It's literally him saying flame clouds appear, then like 3 panels of like something happening off to the side while Luffy's beating Kaido. And then we cut to Onigashima already set on the ground and Momonosuke just like, yeah, that was tough. Like, I'm going to take a nap after this. Like, what the fuck? But can we just talk about how Momonosuke, like 5 chapters back, new conflict came up for him. Really interesting new conflict, which is like, is it correct for me to open the borders of Wano, right? So Momonosuke is still dealing with certain things. We've not seen Momonosuke in human form. He just got a really important new conflict, which is what he's apparently trying to solve in the middle of all of this, is like, what should I do, right? And nothing that happened in the wake of that moment, right? Like him trying to figure out what he is supposed to do. Should he even be attempting to free Wano, right? Was his father's vision correct or not? None of that was addressed or like even relevant. Like nothing that happened recently is even relevant to that question that Momonosuke now has to deal with. So there's a lot going on with Momonosuke that suggests like, to me, Oda did it in the most extreme possible way where it seems apparent that Momonosuke has like more to go. But I don't know. We'll wait and see. DR says, if this really is the end of the Kaido fight, then post-time skip cannot be saved and will always be worse than pre-time skip. I'm not going to say anything on that. Aesop says, hey Morge, could you give us your top 5 manga? And did you enjoy watching 1015? Keep up the good work. Thanks. And I watched... Okay, so people are asking... Let me do the manga first. Top 5 manga, One Piece will always be number 1 unless... I don't even know. Like, even if nothing happens like the way that hopefully salvages the arc, in my opinion... It's just so hard for me to take One Piece out of my favorite because it's One Piece. I've been with it for so long. Like, it's like, I don't know. Like, it would, the number, like, I'm trying to think what are the things that would take me for, like, it would take for me to, like, no longer love One Piece. I don't know. It's hard. We'll deal with that if/when it comes and things go way, way, way off the rails. But One Piece will probably always be number 1. It's, like, in a separate category in terms of, like, that's the only manga. Probably one of the few works of fiction, I think, in general. Like, it's probably the only work of fiction I'm like, yeah, I really love this story. This is the story that I really, really, really love. I'd be super, super upset if this didn't continue. So One Piece is number 1 for me. Other manga that are probably in my, I guess you would say, top 5. It's so difficult because, like, so many series just do certain things that make me fall off of them really hard. And I have way less patience for other series than I do One Piece. One Piece I grew up with. So I've got, like, my leniency for, like, what things I might not like or dislike about One Piece that I'll look the other way for is like huge. Whereas my leniency for other manga is very slim. I don't know. I'm just very more critical when I come to other series, basically. And that's funny because some people think that like I'm too negative about One Piece, which I personally don't think I am. Obviously, I wouldn't think I am. Unbiased source. But anyway, One Piece probably my favorite. Not probably. Unquestioned, separate category, right? See, like, Berserk, probably easily top 2-3 favorite manga, but, like, the fact that it's very likely not going to continue, that affects it for me. It's hard for me to place that, because I'm like, do I even want to read this series again, knowing it's not going to continue? I don't know. Vinland Saga was definitely my second favorite for a bit, till the new arc started, and now I'm just like this, or not till the new arc started, till the Baltic Sea War, the third arc, basically. Post-farm arc, worst arc, one of the worst arcs in manga history. And that threw it off for me. JoJo's, I think I'll always be able to enjoy, even though JoJo Leon was wildly disappointing. But JoJo's is just a enjoyable series. Chainsaw Man is what I'm definitely hot on right now. Definitely hot on Chainsaw Man. I love Chainsaw Man. And I think the one-shots that the author has been doing give me high hopes for the future. If I had to pick a 5, did I already give you 5? Do I have to give any more? Nah, that's good enough. Like, other series that kind of float. Like, Hunter x Hunter. Is that ever going to continue? I don't know. I was loving it while it was going on, but is it ever going to continue? Attack on Titan fell off for me. Gaunt's shitty ending. So many things I can be like, went off the rails, didn't enjoy as much later, stuff like that. As for 1015, I was supposed to talk about 1015, right? Wasn't I supposed to talk about 1015? Also missed super chat from the Pirate Hero. Sorry, from thanks Pirate Hero. XCEIE says thoughts on Raizo's water from Zoe, possibly such probably being seawater, thus it's able to reswitch the gifters in the next few chapters. Hashtag Raidfill. First of all, I don't think that's gonna happen because I just don't know if that's how it works. Like if you remember the zombies, right? So remember the zombies in Thriller Bark, the salt had to go into their mouths for it to reverse the effect, right? Just touching seawater, as far as I know, doesn't do that. Now, flip side is basically, look, if that water reversed everybody, then it would destroy, like, it would make Raizo the worst fucking character in One Piece. He first gets the entire mink population, basically their civilization torn down, arms chopped off, limbs hacked, basically God knows how many died or whatever, tortured for days. That's all on Raizo, right? And yeah, sure, friendship, great, etc. Nobody's crying over that. Raizo just feels the burden over that guilt, right? So imagine he's like, all right, this is my big moment of redemption. I'm going to change this, flip the script. You guys putting your lives on the line to save me, that came in clutch because at the end of the day, you saving me allowed me to basically do this for the Alliance and save all of our lives in the future. So the faith and everything like that you guys showed, protecting me, that loyalty, that paid off. That is good as a concept for Raizo's moment right here. If instead it turned out you guys did all that shit only for me to try to repay you with a big moment that just fucks everything up and turns the entire Beast Pirates alliance back to full strength, it's just like, whoops, fucking Raizo, man. Who else but Raizo? And then like some corny theme song plays. It's like, Raizo, you fucked up everybody again. What a kooky character we saved here. Raizo's just bumbling through this entire war effort, just fucking everybody over left and right. It's like, who was the traitor? Kanjuro, or was it Raizo accidentally leaking information the entire time to to some beast pirate in disguise? Where were we at? Oh, I forgot about 10:15. Yeah, 10:15. I watched part of 10:15. I thought 10:15 was great. I did not watch the first half of it. I ended up watching it through YouTube clips because it was just in my recommended. I thought it was great. Like, I thought some of the ideas that they did, like just showing from under Luffy, like Luffy's POV from under the straw hat, brilliant. Some of the cuts that they did, brilliant. Like, I don't know. I thought it was... What do I have to say about 10:15 that hasn't been said already about 10:15? Great stuff. Great stuff. I'm not going to continue watching the anime, but I have nothing, like, bad to say about it. All I can say is I wish we lived in a world where we had... I mean, obviously, it's wildly unrealistic to say that One Piece anime should always be like that, right? I just wish that it wasn't, like, 80% bad and, like, 10% decent and then 10% great. I just wish it wasn't that ratio. I wish we lived in a world where we could have, like, the anime always being about, like, somewhat decent in production quality. I wish we had that. And then occasionally great. And I feel like that's the rhythm it was at in pre-time skip. I feel like post-time skip, that's been abandoned, largely due to pacing, and I think pacing can never be fixed with the way the anime works right now. So I'll probably never return to watching it long term. But it's cool that, like, some episodes can be artistic experiments for some certain directors and stuff. So I can enjoy it in a not really One Piece sense, but in a, general production sense. Clayton Kinbrew says, you guys think Kid joins the post-Wano party? Yeah, I think Kid could join the post-Wano party. I think that'd be pretty cool. What chats did I miss? I didn't miss any chats. Clayton Kimbrew... No, we covered you. Keenan says, if the silent bubble law put on Big Mom is still active, Oda has given a fantastic pre-written in element of surprise. Can't wait for her return. You're right. That would be pretty sick. If Big Mom just silently makes her return. South says, Morji-kun, Big the Boss passed away. You're always mean to him, so in honor of him, can you stand up, turn around, and do 10 squats? It was his last wish. Don't be disappointing like chapter love. Hashtag is it juicy. I don't know if I'm doing that. Juan Nunez says, can't help but laugh at people praising the creative and free Luffy fighting style, yet he ends it with a cliche big punch. Like, come on. That is true. Take that up with them, not me. I'm not saying anything on that. it would technically have been ended by the, like, I don't think anybody would be in the wrong to say that this is anticlimactic, because look, if this is the end, because the fact is that Oda himself, right? This is not us. This is not fans. You can take us completely out of the equation. The writer himself came out and said, I think most readers would be disappointing if Luffy just wins with a big punch. Well, not a big punch, because his punch is so strong. That's word of God himself. That's Oda's own opinion. He acknowledges it would be disappointing. So, my opinion, I would assume that I think it's fair for, if Oda's allowed to say that, I think it's fair for us to say that. That's, call me crazy, but I think that that's fair. Clay Kimbrew says, if it is the end, then the citizens will wake up to a new dawn without an oppressor and all of their lantern dreams come true. Yeah, I also think it's kind of wild if that were to happen like that. Like, that people just wander over and are like, hey, Kaido is defeated. Let's party, or whatever. Because I can't think of a single... How do I describe how weird that is from a dramatic standpoint? Imagine it's like the Lord of the Rings, and they're all in their final battle to take on Sauron or whatever. And like the city of Gondor, like while this battle is going on, the city of Gondor is just partying and they're having a good time. And they're like, man, wouldn't it be awesome if like Sauron was defeated? And then like people show back up and they're like, guess what, guys? Sauron was defeated. And they're like, fuck yeah, we did it. Like what, like imagine like in like Harry Potter. Like, imagine instead of, like, all of Hogwarts being in this big battle and everything being serious and grim or whatever, instead, imagine Hogwarts is throwing a party. Hogwarts is throwing a party, and they're all like, man, this is the best day of the year. Hey, imagine if Voldemort was being defeated somewhere right now, and then Harry walks in, and he's like, guess what, guys? Voldemort's toast. We got him. And they're like, fuck yeah, keep the party going. It's just, it's not, I can't imagine it for, like, any other story. It makes no sense. It's like the opposite of what you would always do dramatically. You don't have people already partying and being like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if the bad guys are beaten? And then the good guys come in and they're like, well, we did it. And they're like, fuck yeah. It's bizarre. I've never, there's nothing comparable I could even imagine. Throughout all of One Piece even, like there's nothing like similar whatsoever. We all know how One Piece finales usually are, right? They're very... everybody's holding their breath. Everyone's very tense. Everybody's looking on as the hero's taking on the villain or whatever. Or they're wrapped up in some other more serious shit like the Alabasta War, and everything is beyond tense. It's like blowing up in everyone's faces. Everyone's like in absolute, absolute seriousness. Everyone's at war or whatever. And then and only then is the tension broken with the villain being defeated. This is like, I don't even know how to describe this. I don't think that there's like. Because there's nothing similar in any story period that I can imagine where they're already like throwing a party and they're already just casually like, wouldn't it be nice if like the bad guys are getting beaten up right now, like, and somewhere off in the distance, and then the good guys coming over to like, don't worry, check that box off. It's like there's nothing I can even imagine that's even close to comparable. Kalal Brown says, hey, Morge, this is a bit off topic, but I would love a video dedicated to Wiper. He's such an amazing character that Oda only had him around for an arc. He's personally one of my favorite characters. I have a video I want to do on the most underrated side characters in One Piece. I think that, and I kind of want to do that largely because of Wiper. Because Wiper is, I think, the best side character to show up throughout all of One Piece. And Wiper is one of my favorite characters throughout the entire story. So I would love to include Wiper in some way. And that it's probably going to be some context like that. So wait on a break week. I don't think I'll do this break week, but like maybe some break week. That's a video I've been wanting to do. Joseph K4 says, I believe Luffy is never meant to dominate and defeat Kaido. If Luffy does, he would stand the clear favorite in every future battle, removing the underdog scheme he's always had. Kaido has to concede. I mean, even if Kaido concedes, doesn't that mean Luffy won? I mean, I don't think you can argue like injuries or whatever, because no matter how you spin it, Luffy was way more heavily injured than Kaido over the course of this battle. William Marshall says, like, I don't want to hear people being like, well, Kaido was hurt by the scabbards and shit. It's like, bitch, it's the scabbards. It's the fucking scabbards. Like, I don't... Oh, Kaido had to fight the scabbards. It's like, oh, yeah? Did he have to fight a bunch of Girl Scouts after that, too? Like, what the... Oh, no. And then did Buggy's pirate fleet show up at his door right afterwards? Oh no, someone posts a panel of like someone stabbing Kaido or something like that. It's like, wow, can't believe that happened. Instead, like, you know who Luffy's been taking hits from throughout this fight? Kaido himself. Fucking Kaido. Like, what, like, Kaido is stronger than anybody that's been injuring Kaido, right? So if Luffy's been getting injured by Kaido, then Luffy's injuries are factually, over the course of this fight, way, way, way more severe than Kaido's. If anyone's handicapped over the course of this fight, it's Luffy. Because the real fair fight would be if you got Gear 5th Luffy fresh, 100% health from the start, versus Kaido, fresh, 100% health at the start, right? In reality, what we got for the final round was basically Gear 5th Luffy probably at like nearly 10% health, and Kaido probably at like 40% health. So Kaido actually came into on an advantage at the start of the final round. William Marshall says, what are your favorite character arcs in One Piece? Which character stories are most impactful for you? I mean, yeah, I could go with the classic. I could say Nico Robin. Nico Robin, easy. I think overall, probably, if you go just by origin arcs, Chopper, Nami, they don't have necessarily the strongest character arcs. Robin has the best character arc, but like character stories, I think those are the ones that stick out the best. Ivan back from the card shop says, thoughts on Full Metal Alchemist, not top 5 ? I think Full Metal Alchemist is very, very solid. And I think that there's a lot. I don't mean that in a negative way. I watched it. I didn't read it. So I wouldn't even put it in top 5 manga because I've never read the manga. But Full Metal is the rare series that doesn't fuck up the ending or the descent in any way. Is it the craziest, coolest ending ever? No, but it lands it fine. It lands it decently. It lands it, you could argue, even well, and I wouldn't say a thing. And that is very, very rare. And I would generally rather a series never be truly exceptional. I don't think Full Metal at any point is truly exceptional. Like, I don't think there's any way to spin it. Like, I don't think it's emotionally ever, like, super, super compelling or anything like that to me. I don't think, like, philosophically it ever really hits anything with some, like, really crazy, complex, very densely well-executed, well-thought-out themes. I think it does everything decently well, decently likable characters, good character concepts across the board and stuff, some good character writing, nice little world. Like, it just does everything well and doesn't fuck it up from start to finish, and it has the finish line probably thought out from the beginning, and that is good enough. And I think Full Metal Alchemist is a very good anime because it doesn't fuck anything up, in my opinion. What says, if Kaido is defeated and the last Wisdom King, Thunder Bagua, that is also conveniently the strongest king, isn't shown, what could possibly be the justification outside of Oda simply forgetting? Look, I'm never going to use some outside lore as, like, criticism, basically. It's like I'm never going to be like, oh, Oda referenced this god and this god, but he didn't reference this, like, I don't know, rain god or something. Like, I think some people, the outside lore really matters. It's like, you know, like the Tale of Momonosuke, it has the pheasant and the monkey and the dog and stuff like that. And I think at this point, it's kind of become clear to many people, like, Luffy represents the monkey, Yamato the dog, Hiyori arguably the pheasant or the bird or whatever, because those are the 3 most important Wano characters. I mean, with Momonosuke himself obviously included. But I'm never going to be like, oh, well, Oda's referencing this myth or mythology or legend or whatever, therefore it's bad writing if Oda doesn't include, like, if Oda skipped out on including a dog or something for this arc or whatever, right? That's not like bad writing. It's just like he can include however much of mythology he feels like including. It's more so like when you're making a theory or whatever, it's like, oh, well, it's interesting that Oda's referencing certain, like, Wisdom Kings or whatever, but he's not referencing the most important one. Could he be saving up to something? William Marshall says, what are your favorite Straw Hats walk to / pose moments? Mine are pose on top of Ennie's lobby and walk to Frankie House. Honestly, mine are probably the same thing. I think posing on top of Ennie's lobby is one of the coolest things in, like, fiction in general. It's just like these 6 kids just standing up to the entire world for the sake of their friend, and they don't even have that's what's so funny. They don't even have a clear idea of why they're there. They have very little knowledge or context or anything about, like, what the ancient weapons are, who Robin is. They barely know who Robin is. They barely have a concept of who Nico Robin is at the time that they show up to Ennie's lobby. They barely know. They barely even know what the hell happens at Ennie's. Like, they know that Ennie's lobby is bad. They know that being taken in by the world government to go to Impel Down is bad. They know general shit, but they don't really know what crimes Robin is accused of. They don't know much. They do all of that. They declare war on the world. They show up all the way there. They stand in front of the world, shoot down the world government's flag, everything. Just because, like, they're kind of pissed that they took their friend and gave no explanation, and they don't really care what the why or how is, basically. I think it's an amazing scene. Kakashi Snitch 9 says, Morch, who's the badder princess, Yamato or Hancock? I mean, I'm biased towards Hancock as a character, but if we're talking like purely looks, like purely design and concept, look, I mean, even I think Hancock, not Hancock, I think Yamato takes it. Even like, if you go back and read my, or watch my chapter review when Yamato's first introduced, you could tell that, like, that I'm definitely a fan of what was, like, of the concept behind who Yamato actually is, you know? I'm like, oh, you know, a hot female Oni. Like, that's a surprise. None of us expected that to be Kaido's son at the time, right? So I was like, I'm down for it. This is a pleasant surprise. Let's see what we get out of this character. And I was very, very, very patient with Yamato. I was very, very patient with Yamato. It took me like a good while before I started saying, like, what the fuck is going on with this character? I was like you guys. I was like, look, hot, tall, Amazon Oni girl, like, maybe even a new crewmate or whatever. I was down for it. I was like, let's see what happens. Let's see what Oda does with this character. He's introducing her really late in the game, but I'm super interested. And I'm waiting. Like, I was just like you guys. I was taken in by the design. At a certain time, I woke up and I was like, what the fuck is she doing here? What the fuck is this? Caleb Brown says, Morge, I just want to say I absolutely love your sense of humor. Thanks. You always make me laugh and I really appreciate you. Thanks a lot. Keep up the great work, my guy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Brandon King says, you think we'll ever learn more about Kong? I would like to think so. I would like to think in some sort of... The way Oda introduced and framed Kong gives me the sense that he's not that important in the grand scheme of things, but I think he's going to be the figure that we kind of see at the head of the Marines anytime we get more in-depth flashbacks into Rock's or Roger's time. Gigatronma says, y'all don't remember how One Piece arcs end. This is the start of the absurdly long, aimlessly running part to the beat of the Beast Pirates getting up. I would love to see it. Enma298 says, I just want to say I really hate how else would Luffy win other than a punch argument than when this dude threw a whole lightning bolt at Kaido like 2 chapters ago, lol. Yeah, ever since Advanced Conquerors Haki has been introduced, I think that, like, those type of arguments are out the window. Oda can do whatever he wants. Oda could literally have Luffy, like, use, like what you can do with Conquerors Haki, like, aggressively. We have no idea yet, right? And I imagine we'll see more of that as we progress through the story. Because it sounds like Roger was on some other level entirely with Conqueror's Haki. As soon as we saw, like, them clashing and making clouds and skies split and stuff with no contact, it opens the door to, like, what could you really do with Advanced Conqueror's Haki? Third Eye Pirate says, I think the citizens have to cry, and the last panel would be like Alabasta, fist raised to protect Wano. Yeah, maybe. Juan Nunez says, I always took the strong ones decide how to die as to why Kaido won't be able to choose. That's the take I do. Luffy won't let him choose. Yeah, I don't think that Kaido gets the death that he wants, the type of death that he wants. John Ross says, Google image, new colors, Gred Yoon for your chair. G-Red Yoon? Did you spell this right? Your spelling is terrible. Or it's correct. What is this? New colors, G-Red Yoon. What do you mean new colors? I literally don't get what you told me. I don't understand it. Groovy Zeno says, in episode 1017, Kid told Kaido he will make the Beast Pirates join his crew. Did he say that in the manga? I swear he did not say that in the manga. Didn't you make a theory about that, question mark? Oh, I did make a theory that, it's in the Killer dying video, the second one. I did make a theory that I think that it's very, very, very likely, or possible, in my opinion, that we could see characters like Hawkins, Apu, etc. eventually taken under Kid's wing. Supreme King says, no Grand Fleet considering Luffy died is terrible. Kaido is anticlimactic. Sun God story feels cliche lately. I love One Piece forever, but it hurts. So you said I love One Piece forever. I think that's where I'm at too. But I also don't think that the things you think are final. So, like, that's just where I'm at. You guys, I feel like, are getting some stuff off your chest, but all I'm going to always respond with is, like, I literally don't think, like, I think that the way things are framed right now doesn't suggest that this is the end, at least to me. Day6192000 says, Chainsaw Man or JJK, which is a better story to you? okay, so like better story is tricky because Chainsaw Man is like Jujutsu Kaisen is much more a traditional story than Chainsaw Man, right? Jujutsu Kaisen is much more traditional story. Chainsaw Man is its own thing. Like, if you ask me which is a better manga or a better work, I would say Chainsaw Man in a second. Which is a better story is a little complicated because it's like there are things that I can consider really good but not think are great stories. Like, what's a movie that simple example movie, let's say something that, okay, everybody has probably seen Pulp Fiction or something, right? I don't think Pulp Fiction's a great story. It's really not a great story. In fact, it's like its strong points are not that it's a strong story. Rather, it's like the small thing. Like, it's, I guess, the line between when you're getting more out of the box, more experimental with how you're presenting things or whatever, there's a difference between what I would call a great story versus like a great work, right? I think Chainsaw Man is significantly better than Jujutsu Kaisen. I think at the end of the day, Jujutsu Kaisen is solid, and I like Jujutsu Kaisen, but I don't think it's anything particularly special in the grand scheme of like shonen things that it's kind of compared or contrasted with. Whereas Chainsaw Man stands 8 steps to the left of all other shonen series for sure. It's in its own box. Or not in its own box. It's doing things that are very, very creative, very experimental, not necessarily like storytelling wise, but just, yeah, the type of narrative it's telling and the twists and turns it's invoking or it's incorporating into the narrative, and the way it's presenting certain ideas. Bunfagum says, what will Hancock's arc be in the future? I don't know. Hancock's a hard character to tell. There's an argument that she's not going to change that much by the end of the story. But I do think that she could be used well as like an incentive for Luffy to do something along those lines. Are we arguing about ulti down here? I think if we saw more of the I think we saw so little of the Tobiropo, it's hard for me to even make solid opinions. I wanted to see more of ulti. I thought ulti was cool. Bademba2606 says, what do you think of the theory that Zones need to die to awaken and Kaido isn't awakened, which is why he wants to die? So Luffy beats him now, which triggers his awakening. Credits to Sora 7 Mage. Credits to Sora 7 Mage. I never really know what Sora 7 Mage does because I don't really watch, like, he's just on his own island kind of doing his own thing or whatever. But Zones need to die to awaken. I mean, maybe near death to awaken or something like that. I have a hard time believing that Kaido's never died before. That'd be kind of crazy. And the way Kaido speaks of it sounds as though he's familiar with awakening. But that I really like that idea that Zones, because that might have different drawbacks to different fruit types, right? Because Paramecia, we know that the endurance or whatever, using your awakening takes up your endurance to some degree. That's why you hold off on it. With Zones, it would be interesting if it's like, because it's so focused on durability, regeneration, and stuff, maybe you do need to go to death or the brink of death in order to activate your awakening, which would further fuel the idea that the other beast pirates can awaken as well. Felix C says, chapter was so mid, more just to roast it twice. I'm not roasting. You guys have been doing most of the roasting. I did a little bit. I'll admit that. But that's because it was funny. The Pirate Hero says, super chat from Grizzly Adams. Morge, have you watched Ranking of Kings? Oh, I forgot about Ranking of Kings. Ranking of Kings is cool. If so, would Boji have Conqueror's Haki if he was in the One Piece world? I mean, I think so. Right? Seems to make sense. Seems to fit. Ranking of Kings is cool. I'm not 100% caught up, but I'm like, I stopped at like episode 18 because I had to take a break. But, yeah. I liked it. I'll probably catch up at some point. Sausage Lord says, God King Morge, thanks. What was the point of the numbers, the Big Mom Pirates, and is Hawking dead? They will all be back soon. Don't even worry about them. They'll be okay. Pirate Hero says, super chat from Atris. I agree with you that the raid is failing, but I don't think we'll find out in 2 chapters. I don't think we'll find out in 2 chapters, but I think something could happen, such as, for example, Kaido's flashback continues. It's more so, what is the point that I fairly should basically concede and say, hey, I don't think that what number of chapters would have to go by with no signs of Kaido getting back up, no signs of flashback, no signs of anything before it's like fair. It's like, hey, Morge, you should probably say that you were wrong at this point or something, right? There has to be a clear cutoff point for that. So I'll say probably after 1051. I think that's fair. 1051. If 1052 it gets completely turned around, then I'll feel kind of sad about that. I'll be like, fuck, jumped off the train right at the end. But you guys will give me a pass, right? But 1051, I'll be like, okay, if there's nothing, Kaido's not getting back up, no signs of any rumblings, no sign of any flashback whatsoever, then, hey, maybe this is the end of it, and maybe I should talk about, hey, the raid didn't fail. But I think that we will get something, at least in 2 chapters, maybe 3. But I got to give myself some sort of cutting point, at least to keep things fair. Atris says, I'm guessing 10:50 is the end of Act 3, then an intermission, then Act 4 starts with Kaido flashback. I think that no matter what, it would we would find out in Act 3, right? My opinion. But maybe. If we have to wait a full act, then I'll just be like, fuck, the raid's not going to fail. Oh, we just hit 1,500 viewers. Pretty cool. Guys, like the stream. 1,500 viewers, but only 546 likes. We can get that up to at least 1,500 statistically. Oh, 1017 adapts more than a chapter? That is rare. That is very rare. Since when has the anime been adapting more than 1 chapter at a time? Why? That's kind of crazy. Ninerbot says, thank God for Whole Cake Island, the only arc so far that lived up to the hype pre-time skip. No, not the hype. That lived up to the pre-time skip. It actually had emotion. Wano's overhyped and average, in my opinion. Yeah, look, I mean, all I can say is I think Whole Cake Island, to me, at this point, is still the best arc post-time skip. I think if you go to the middle section of Whole Cake Island, when all the Sanji stuff is happening, the Luffy-Sanji stuff, etc., Sanji pudding, blah, 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 Sanji-Luffy reconciliation, I think that was all great emotional writing from Oda. Might not have hit as hard for some people as others. I'm not going to be like, oh, I was crying over it, but it felt like, it was dramatic content that you can sink your teeth into and be like, yeah, this is the type of character writing that One Piece is great for. Whereas I think that the Straughts, for the most part, have been generally detached, I guess, in terms of how they've been portrayed throughout a lot of this. And Oda has not been trying to get into any juicy, dramatic stuff for them personally or in their interactions or in their storylines or anything like that over the course of this arc. But I do think all of that can change soon. Juan Nunez says, can we talk about anime pacing? 12 freaking pages per episode soon, 2 to 3 caps anime, Kaido hybrid form in the anime. But I was just told that the anime just adapted more than 1 episode. So I'm getting conflicting information, more than 1 chapter, so I'm getting conflicting information here. John Ross is not a typo, lol. All right, Winston Graham, thank you. Pulp Fiction is trash. I don't care what you think about Pulp Fiction. I don't care that much about Pulp Fiction. I'm just giving an example. Like, it's not about... You're not always comparing story to story. There's some things like there are plenty of movies that I think are amazing that don't have great stories necessarily, but how the movie plays out and kind of what you're getting out of it is something totally different, right? So Chainsaw Man is kind of like that. I don't think the story is amazing, but the ideas behind it and the way that he kind of takes you for a ride is really, really cool. Keenan says, how possible is it that Mihawk recognized Zoro as a Shimotsuki? That is an interesting idea. When Mihawk showed Shanks Luffy's bounty, could he have asked about Zoro as well? I don't know. I don't know. Look, I feel like Mihawk had to have interacted with Wano at some point. It's just like, how did he get the title of World's Strongest Swordsman if he never went to Wano? I don't know. But I don't know if Mihawk... I would prefer the idea that Mihawk took Zoro in purely on account of what Zoro displayed at Baratier, rather than Mihawk seeing some familiar resemblance to some great line of swordsmen or something. Gentle Savage says, do you think Imu could be the moon god and big assumption there, having the moon god fruit would explain how she can control the tides and make other fruit users drown? I have no idea that she could do that in the first place. So that would be cool. That'd be cool. Leo Recto says, do you think Dragon has a wind fruit and advanced conquers haki and he combines it like the Force? That, again, really, really cool idea. I do think Dragon has advanced conquers haki. I do think he has a wind fruit. And yeah, there's probably a lot of things you could do with that combination. Roxas Vanitas1 says, do you think Kaido and Big Mom will both awaken? Yes. Although 50% of people on Twitter tell me that they both secretly awakened and were secretly using awakening during their entire fights, and Oda thought it best not to share that information with people because he didn't want to make the fights too dramatic. That's for sure. Certainly don't want to let the reader know when the villain is using their strongest ability. Just keep that a secret. Leave it ambiguous whether they're using everything they've got or not. And then just allow them to be defeated by falling down a hole. Old Green Knee says, can I have mod once the raid fails? What? Never stop believing in the theory. How am I supposed to know that, man? Kaido, neither did I, and I'm not out here demanding mod. Kaido's awakening is going to be a cascade effect, awakening all the other zones /smile/pleasures, making them go back. I agree with you. We are both of the same mindset. But at the same time, I have no way of confirming whether or not you have always been on this train. And on top of that, this is a pay to mod system. It's not a stay on the raid fail train and become mod system. If anything, many of my mods don't even believe that the raid will fail. So shame on them, but it's not a prerequisite. Bunfagum says, does Boa's arc include her ending up with Luffy? No, I mean, I don't think Boa ends up with Luffy at all. Zaibatsu, I think that's a gag from start to finish. Zaibatsu says, the real question is how smug are you going to rightfully act if Kaido isn't defeated? People are so sure it is that. If it's not, I think you should just do a 30-minute video smiling. No, that would be... I will celebrate for the raid failing and mainly just that. I will celebrate mainly for the raid failing. If I get some small theories right along the way, then I'll be happy about it or whatever. But mainly the raid failing because Kaido... I think a lot of people, to be honest, don't think that Kaido is defeated right now. I think a lot of people don't think that Kaido is defeated. I think I even saw some poll by TCB scans, and it's a solid 50% split or something. The bigger thing is the raid failing. Look, if Kaido gets up, sure, that's a win for me that I'll probably talk about and probably be happy about. If Kaido awakens, that's pretty big. If Kaido beats Luffy again, that's pretty big. Those are things that I'll probably hang my hat on and be like, yeah, cool, I was right about these things. Yay. Celebration, right? But the big thing is ultimately the raid failing. If the raid doesn't fail at the end of the day, we were wrong about the biggest thing. But no, you know what? I'll probably will be pretty happy if all of those other small things happen. Old Green Knee says, when the raid fails, have you planned a victory lap? No, you don't plan you don't plan victories. All right? Everybody go read about the Straw Hats before they walk into Onigashima. What are they doing before they walk into Onigashima? They're party planning. They're literally party planning. They're planning their victory, right? They're planning their victory. They're like, once we win, we're going to throw the biggest, bestest party ever. Winners don't do that. Winners, they wait for victory to happen before they start thinking about anything else, all right? It's the mentality of a loser to go in already thinking about your victory. I'm also excited to see the flow shift from spectacle to suspenseful combat. I hope we get that shift too. Is there anyone you think needs more knife twisting besides Usopp? I think Usopp is number one at the moment. Atris says there's a river under Wano connecting to the Mogura port leading to the bottom of the waterfalls. Kaido being punched through Wano could lead to a meeting with the Big Mom pirates. Yeah, a lot of people are also saying that about Big Mom herself. Sorry guys, my shoulder is kind of killing at the moment. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with this for sure. But I'm just giving you guys a heads up that at some point, I don't know. Yeah, I do think that Big Mom met up with the Big Mom pirates through that. Supreme King says, nothing's final. I was wondering what your thoughts were on the tone change of the story. Literally feels impossible for Luffy to fail and anyone to die. I mean, I personally think that that's a deliberate choice so as to lull the reader into a false sense of, overconfidence or victory or whatever before things flip. But people tell me I'm crazy, so I don't know. Bill says, donation to Morge's Jack Honey Fund. VOD crew represent. Anybody who wants to watch the last stream, which was probably... Last stream was one of the most fun streams that I've ever done. Partly because it was it wasn't really planned. I wasn't even sure. I was messaging TCB, is the chapter going to come out or whatever. So I did end up basically... I didn't really know what was up. I ended up going... and already... little happy hour type stuff basically at this... I don't want to say any sort of names or details or whatever so people don't track where I live or whatever, but I came back to the stream basically a little late, so the stream started a little late. I was already kind of drinking, so I was like, okay, I can keep it going. This will be fun. So a combination of that plus how controversial the chapter was plus how many new viewers showed up because it was people who were either joining the raid fail train in hopes of things turning around or people who wanted to come in and spam copium and Morgy Lost, etc. So it was a whole influx of new people. Plus, it was the first time I streamed, I think, right after a chapter came out. So it was just more commotion and more people than usual, basically. So that was one of the most fun streams that I've done, for sure. It was just crazy seeing everyone's reactions. I was having a good time. But yeah, you can catch that stream on the Morge Streams channel. That's where all streams get uploaded. Mr. Crescent says, I still think the raid's failing, but I have no idea what Oda's going to do from here out. All the tension is gone, and it would be kind of awkward for Kaido to get up right now, but I'm eager to see what Oda's plans are. I don't think it would be awkward for Kaido to get up. I think getting a hard reversal when people think it's, when everyone's feeling good and feeling like they won, I think that's pretty good. Wheezy Bird really pushed, so Dofi, an underling of Kaido, has an awakening, but not his boss. Yeah, I mean, I think that Kaido has awakening. I don't think that there's anything, I just think that Kaido has awakening and he's not shown it yet. I don't think that that's such a crazy thing to say. I think it is extremely likely that he does. Day6192000 says, do you still believe Green Bull is Zoro's father? I think that that's still definitely a possibility because we know now that it's not Shimotsuki Ishimaru, right? But that's possibly his uncle, grandfather, relative, or something because there's some relationship there, right? There's some relationship between Zoro and Shimotsuki, so there's certain cards Oda's holding close to his chest regarding Zoro's father. Bobby Bob Wellington says, what more did you expect from Yamato so far with so many characters that require focus in the raid, especially if you think the raid will fail? Yamato has had no character arc whatsoever. Yamato is probably the character who is most in need of some sort of arc right now because she is solely at square one of her character arc, and she clearly basically needs to be broken from her delusion and her beliefs that she needs to become Odin in order to... I'm stretching... Jake Stiebert says more stretch session. I'm stretching just because some shoulder stuff right now. I explained it at the start of the stream. Don't worry about it. Fabricio Ciampani says, will Luffy be able to fight anytime soon? He looks pretty done in the last panel. Yeah, but a lot of people have looked done in the last panel or whatever. I don't think that, I think if Kaido gets back up to fight, we will see Luffy get back up at least to fight. I don't know if he will exit Gear 5th momentarily or not, but I do think, we saw Luffy literally, in chapter 1045 or something, he allowed Gear 5th to fade for a little bit, and then he just turned it back on. He's like, well, I'm going to keep fighting if we got to keep fighting or whatever. Ninerbot says, I love you, Morge, but the raid isn't ending in failure. At this point, we're going to need an intervention. We've been in Wano for years. It's time to let go. Well, I will say that the raid didn't fail if in a couple chapters, right? It looks like we're basically done. So I think at that point, I think it's fair to say that. Anime Dimension says, before war, that not victory party, it's Jinbei's welcome. No, it's too different. Go reread the chapter. They're like, let's toast to Jinbei. Then Luffy's like, no, we're not going to toast to Jinbei. Once we beat all these guys, then we'll throw the biggest party we've ever seen, and we'll celebrate Jinbei along with that. They're planning a victory party over the Beast Pirates and Big Mom Pirates. That's when they're like, well, we'll throw in Jinbei's toast in as well. John Ross says, Momo's fruit doesn't have a soul like normal zones and can't awaken. /Brook dying /awaken his Charon Underworld Boat Dude Zone abilities. I don't know if Brook has the Charon fruit. That'd be interesting if that was revealed. Oh, man. Felix C says, do you think most of the happiness you'll feel when the raid fails is because of how hard the community was against it or for other reasons? I'm not thinking about stuff like that, but that'll be an interesting question if/when it happens. Probably can answer that in the moment. If it doesn't happen, then it's just best not to talk about hey, what ifs? What if the raid fails? What if, what's your reaction after that? What do you do after that? Whatever. Best not to think about things like that. Crow Stray God says, which pair has a higher chance of making up and becoming friends? Kaido and Luffy, Doflamingo and Law, Nami and Arlong. Oh, that's a cool question. Law hates Doflamingo, Nami, Kaido and Luffy. I think Kaido and Luffy is easy because Kaido's yet to do anything directly really, really, really bad to Luffy. Whereas Doflamingo and Law and Nami and Arlong, they basically were responsible for destroying their entire, they destroyed their entire lives. And the trauma that they felt from that has shaped who they grew up to be. Probably the most hated person. It's indescribable, basically, the feelings that Nami and Law have towards Arlong and Doflamingo. Luffy and Kaido, it's not even that bad. They don't even hate each other that bad. Relatively speaking. Sworn Brother says, when Luffy falls again, do you think Usopp could awaken /use his King's Haki to wake him up, similar to his moment in Enies Lobby, but bigger? I don't know. I mean, I think Usopp got a ways to go before he's set up for a Conqueror's Haki type moment. Juan Nunez says, if Axe theory is true, this is only Act 3 ending. Why people believe Wano's ending so soon? And Act 3 is a tragedy according to the culture of it. I mean, that's an argument I've been saying, but like people have just taken to ignoring the Kabuki argument at this point. So there's nothing I can really say because people are just like, nah, I'm just ignoring that. So I'm like, all right, well, if you're just ignoring the Kabuki structure and you just think that the acts are there for no reason, then there's not really much I can say to that. So I've kind of stopped talking about it. Old Green Knee says, more than the flow shifting, the fighting has to stop so the characters can reflect. Wano fatigue is the only counter argument to raid failing, but dramatic scenes are what Wano's final section needs. I agree. Ryuma says, 1050 will be 1K chapters since Mihawk versus Zoro. That's pretty crazy. I didn't even think about it like that. Old Green Knee says, I also pay every stream I'm in. Make mod, please. That's just, I shouldn't have talked about it. I should. Okay, more polls, please, says Rafi. Be like Rafi. Throw out some good ideas. What did we just do? Did we do Is Kaido defeated? I feel like we did that last stream, but I'm curious on the belief now. Let's take it one step at a time. I won't even talk about the raid failing. We'll just talk about is Kaido defeated or not. I'm interested to see the opinions here. I know on Twitter from the polls I've been seeing there, it's been like a solid 50-50. I think Zoro Fanboy even put out a... Oh, okay, so obviously most of my viewers are going to be saying no. Most of my viewers are going to be biased towards no. On Twitter, I saw a poll recently from Zoro Fanboy saying... Where I also saw it was like 50-50. But I did vote in that poll. So I guess I probably swung it a little bit. So I guess it's probably technically like 49.9999999 versus like 50 point something. Let's see. Was he the one that... Okay, so even on his poll, which is, I guess, a less biased poll, the majority say no, not defeated. Interesting. Very interesting. We got over 75% here saying. So over 75... Okay, let's do this now. Because last time we had a lot of different people in the stream. A lot of not usuals. But I wonder here, will the raid fail? Sorry if I'm making weird sighing sounds. Okay, if I have to move my right arm to be like typing, so on level with the table, that's when it kind of hurts. All right. So, yeah, Momental King says, I'm still on the 5-act train. Yeah, I mean, there's not really any other train. That's just what Kabuki structures are. So Oda will have made up his own train. I mean, there are 3-act plays, but they're just wildly uncommon. Will the raid fail? No, says people. All right, fair enough. That is also the result that it was last Thursday when I ran this, but that's fair enough. Fair enough. So most people, that means... No, because I guess there's 3 camps, right? Okay, wait. This is the right poll. This is the real poll, all right? What happens? All right? Kaido is defeated. Battle over. Kaido gets up. Loses again. Kaido gets up. Wins. All right. So this is the final split. Final split. Momo says the polls are too fast. How long does it take? There's like 2 options. How long does it take you to click? There's no reason it should take you longer than this. Are you really like taking your time to contemplate? I'll give you guys time to contemplate. Didn't know I had such deep thinkers in this chat. Felix C says pay for mod is late stage capitalism. No response. No response. Gentle Savage says, is it possible that Dragon is based on the Dickens character Magwitch? Both are associated with wind motifs and both are criminal absent fathers. I don't read Charles Dickens, but I'll say yes. That sounds like a good idea. So it looks like the majority believe... Okay, so how... Are you guys... Okay, something's wrong here. So now we got 16% saying Kaido's defeated, battle over. But last time I ran this poll, I said... Is Kaido defeated, yes or no? We had 25% saying, yes, Kaido's defeated. Now we got 17%. So what happened? Did a bunch of you guys just leave? Did you guys get confused when I added 2 more options to the poll? If 25% of you said that Kaido is defeated last time, we should have 25% of people saying that again. What the fuck happened in the last 5 minutes? What is this? All right. You guys are so disappointing and confusing sometimes. I don't get you. So did like 25% of you just bail on your opinion? You're like, nah, you know what? I don't have the cojones to stick with my choice and say that Kaido's defeated. So I'm just gonna abandon ship, abscond, move over to one of the other categories. Say Kaido gets up, loses again, or say Kaido gets up, wins. Very, very, just an odd bunch. Just an odd bunch. Who knows what goes on in the wacky, crazy world of your guys' imaginations. And people say that I'm insane for thinking the raid's going to fail. You guys can't stick to an opinion for more than 2 minutes. What is this? Roxas Vanitas 1 says, if Kaido is defeated here, where does he rank among One Piece villains? Personally, I would put him below Doffy and Croc right now. I think I would do that as well if Kaido is defeated here. But Kaido, I think, at the end of the day, even if he is defeated here, despite whatever other issues I had with the arc, I wouldn't be like, oh, I think Kaido is a bad villain. I'd be like, man, what a cool villain he was shaping up to be if only we got the rest of it that was hinted at, basically, and actually got to explore his story and his motivations, development, and things like that, and got answers to some of his questions. But I think no matter what, I think he's still a cool villain at the end of the day. Grizzly Adam says, Morge, if, God forbid, this is the end, will you give us a bullet point version of the Momo theory you talked about last stream? Yeah, I definitely will. Just remind me later. That's one of my favorite secret theories, but it's too crazy to talk about. I think it gained a lot of weight in my head personally when I saw what Oda did with Momo last chapter. Because here's what Oda did with Momo last chapter. So, like, I don't know, like 80 fucking chapters of build up to Momonosuke potentially holding up Onigashima, right? Ever since Onigashima was in the air, we get this sort of, these little hints to Momonosuke potentially holding it up, right? And keep in mind, Momonosuke is the only, let's keep this very, very clear, in all of Wano, in the cast of 40 plus, maybe 50 characters, right? There's only one singular character that had a solid character arc developing from start to finish. Only one character arc out of all these characters. Everything else, just some weird noise, some character moments here or there, some random stuff, but for the most part, you get one character arc. It's just Momonosuke. And it all seems leading up and shaping up to potentially a really, really good moment of Momonosuke holding up Onigashima, much like his father did, above the people of Wano and basically recreating his father's feat and saving all of Wano, right? Endearing himself to the people of Wano, Kazuki clan return, blah, 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 blah. He'll even look like his dad when he's doing it, potentially, because apparently grown-up Momonosuke looks like Oden, okay? All of it also leading up to him overcoming certain things like fear of heights. He'd already kind of gotten past that, but he had like bravery, leadership. What a show of leadership this would be to the people of Wano if they were able to witness him doing this, right? What could he do? How could he inspire people if he holds up Onigashima above Wano? Obviously, it would be a very brave moment, etc. What did it all lead up to? The one character arc in all of Wano. What did it lead up to? Momonosuke yells, "Flame clouds!" Yes. It's literally just, it's like, I can't do it. Oh, Momo, you have to do it. I have to do it. Flame clouds appear. I think that's literally what he says. I don't know what he says in the Viz. Maybe he says something really amazing and eloquent in the Viz. Maybe I've totally missed out on the beautiful, beautiful writing of Stephen Paul. Let's see what he says in the Viz. Let's see what Momonosuke says in the Viz. Because as far as I know with TCB, he just said, flame clouds appear. In Viz, he says, come forth, flame clouds. Is that slightly better? I don't... So he yells, come forth, flame clouds. Keep in mind, the panels of Momonosuke before this are basically comedic panels. It's like his eyes popping out of his sockets, not a particularly serious face or anything like that. This isn't exactly Luffy and Usopp talking to each other. Chapter 427, it's not like it's hell here. It's not exactly that sort of a tone. This is more of a bit of a gag sort of situation. Momonosuke's eyes are popping out of his sockets. He yells, come forth, flame clouds appear. He's got a funny, goofy expression with snot coming out of his nose as the flame clouds do in fact appear. Then you get a tiny little panel if you squint. If it looks like him moving Onigashima out of the way, I think that's what that is. It looks like he's moving Onigashima out of the way. Don't want to spend too much time focusing on the climactic moment of the single character arc in this entire 140 chapter long story, right? Don't want to spend too much time focusing on that. Best shove that off to the side. It's down there in the bottom right. If you get a magnifying glass out, you can kind of see it. Momonosuke, tiny little sketch of him moving Onigashima out of the way. And then that's kind of just it. Then we kind of just cut to, oh, he set Onigashima down on the ground at some point when no one really noticed. It's kind of just, you don't even need to see it really happen. It's just, we cut to Onigashima was set down on the ground. Momonosuke kind of just wilts to the ground. Kind of like, he's kind of just ran I don't know, like a 5-mile, like a 5K or something like that. He's kind of tired at the end. He needs a glass of water. He just kind of slumps over onto the ground. He's got kind of a goofy, sleepy face, and it seems like he's just snoring away. And that would, in theory, be the end of Momonosuke. In theory. I don't believe that is the case. Because I do believe, despite everything that I just said, I do believe that Oda really cares about his characters, and I believe that he really, really, really cares about Momonosuke, because Oda put so much time into Momonosuke. I do not believe that is all that is in store for Momonosuke. The theory that I have on Momonosuke, I will share if the raid doesn't succeed, blah, blah, or doesn't fail, etc. Basically, I'll share what I had. I'll probably do it in bullet points, basically a bullet point version of it, because there's no point elaborating on a long theory on something that's never going to happen. But I do think that there's certain things set up for Momonosuke to have some really, really, really good moments. A really, really good moment. Keep in mind, certain things have not happened for Momonosuke yet. We have not seen his human form. He's not gotten Hame no Habakiri, things like that. I think there's good things in store for Momonosuke. Anime Dimension says, Kaido falling is parallel to Orochi, where Fire Lantern is going up, but I believe Kaido is not defeated yet. Then does that mean Orochi is also not defeated? I mean, I'm, defeated. It's like, Orochi's dead, and we know how One Piece deaths are. You got to check that pulse, 10, 12 times before you're like, yeah, they're actually done for. So I don't think, especially kind of the casual manner in which it was done, just the nature of the fruit Orochi has, I don't know if it's actually dead. Plus, just the cycle of death and awakening, reawakening, and stuff that we kind of been going through recently. Sean Easton says, Morge, my pops walked to the store to prove he was okay when he tore his ACL. Made things worse. Guys tend to undercount bad things. Go to doctor, please. So I'm in all seriousness, I say certain things basically as Joe. I am deeply concerned about my shoulder. Let me make that very, very clear. All right? I'm deeply concerned about my shoulder. Maybe not so deeply that I'll go to the doctor, but I'm definitely going to try and lower the use of it for the next few days. I'm trying to I'm not trying to drive anywhere because driving requires me to raise my right arm to hold the wheel, and that definitely helped aggravate it this weekend. I'm trying to limit use of my shoulder. I am. And in a few days, if it doesn't get better, then I'll go to the doctor. The only reason I'm not going to the doctor right now is because I do still have a full range of motion. It just kind of hurts. It's not as bad as my rotator cuff was last year when I was certain I'd injured it. And that one I was kind of just able to wait out. So I'm going to see if I can wait it out again. And then if I can't, then in the next few days, I'd probably contact a doctor. Old Green Knee says, best girl / worst girl tier list when? Vivi best. But Sean Easton, by the way, thank you for sharing that bit of insight. Not in a joking way, in a genuine way. Because it's true. People do underestimate whatever's going on with their body, or they overestimate the recovery ability or whatever, and then they just fuck shit up. Best girl / worst girl tier list when? So really what you're asking for is a waifu tier list. And I did promise that at some point. But I didn't promise for what. So as soon as I think of some goal that's reasonable, then we'll probably do something like that. OHS says, generally speaking, if Act 3 in Kabuki, by that I mean something I don't know, a certain sub count or something. If I'm coming up on 200k, I might be hey, if we hit 200k, I'll do this waifu tier list or something. OHS says, generally speaking, if Act 3 in Kabuki is supposed to end in tragedy, what story beats should we expect in Act 4? There's little info to work with. As far as I know, that would be a resurgence, sort of, everybody coming back together, maybe going back to war. Sky Could says, do you think Kaido will realize that Luffy is Joy Boy, and what do you think he will do if he does figure it out? I think that Kaido may have some sort of realization, but will still beat his ass. That's basically it. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus says, do a new next Straw Hat poll, but include King. I don't know if that's worth it. And also, King would just win, because I know the way you guys vote. Chikoki, I think you accidentally donated, but thank you. Anuj Agarwal says, Act 1 + 2 + Odin flashback was great, and personally I love Onigashima if it was set up, but is Wano at the point where raid fail doesn't save it for you? Yeah, I mean, my opinion on many things, I think Act 1 I enjoy no matter what. Act 2, Odin flashback even, and Onigashima, a lot of that is based on whether is this all set up leading up to a clear midpoint for the story, or was that basically the whole story? And is this the climax? And are we supposed to be feeling really like emotional and, you know, empowered, and like everything really came to a head and all the characters had like really great storylines and stuff like that? Like, it depends what we're supposed to be feeling right now. So I have no opinion basically at the moment, and I'm not going to really try and go through. I guess I shared a lot of what I felt about Momonosuke just now. But I also, you have to understand that's through the lens of me thinking that like we're probably not done with Momonosuke. Bunfagum says, if Kaido's flashback is short, was Whitebeard's too short? No, because you're looking for different things. So Kaido's flashback, it's based on like, if Oda had never hinted anything for Kaido, like if Oda had kind of kept Kaido the same type of character that Kaido was on his introduction, then I would never even expect or need a flashback, right? Rather, it's when the author is going out of his way to drop lots of little bits of dialogue and hints and things like that at like, this happened in my past, this happened in my past, I hold this philosophy, I hold that, etc. That's when and like, Oda's even gone out of his way to like tease little bits of Kaido's flashback. Like, remember this day that he's like the rocks collapse day, that's been referenced multiple times, and Big Mom's like, you got your fruit that day. And then we even started getting Kaido's flashback through King, and then we started getting Kaido's flashback during his fight with Luffy for a little bit, with like him remembering back to the first time he met Big Mom. So like, Oda's gone out of his way to really build up and hint at Kaido's flashback and certain experiences and things like that. Like, there's so many quotes throughout Kaido that hint at something more, some knowledge that he has that he's not willing to share, and some motivations that he has that he's not willing to share. Those things don't need to be answered through flashback. But at the end of the day, it seemed like Oda was leading towards answering those things through flashback. And with Kaido currently plummeting through the ground, flashback is where we kind of expect those things to be answered. Because like most people, many people don't even know if Kaido's getting back up, right? Maybe Kaido gets back up and he just explains it and no flashback needed. But the point is, like, it's more so that there's many questions attached to Kaido that Oda has planted throughout the story that Oda's also seemed to suggest are going to be fleshed out through his flashback, right? At the end of the day, it's more important that those questions get addressed because it's the author that's raising those questions, right? It's not like we, the reader, are like, hey, Kaido, why'd you enslave the people of Wano? No, that's like a written in line in the story. Like, why am I in Wano? Why am I enslaving the people in Wano? What do I know about, like, there's certain things that Kaido knows that basically do need to be addressed, and certain experiences that do need to be addressed. Whereas with Whitebeard, like, we knew very little about Whitebeard, and it's more like, oh, Oda's fleshing out this character that we really didn't know what much to think of before, right? And that was nice to get. And then over time, we kind of got the general idea of Whitebeard, basically, over the course of the war. And we didn't need to know that much more. When Marco started explaining about Whitebeard's past as a child, it's like, we never really needed to know that. It's more like, oh, that just sounds like Whitebeard. That sounds like young Whitebeard, kind of establishes why he wanted a family or whatever. But I don't think any of us were reading Marineford and were like, wait, why does Whitebeard want a family so bad? This is really, really strange. We need to know why Whitebeard wants a family. You know what I mean? The author's not really framing it as something that's like a deep question that needs a specific answer or something like that, or some strange mystery. Supreme Pirate King says, we can't forget about Caribou as well. Lol, Oda does a good job of making us forget about him. We also don't know what happened to Yasue's body. Really good points. Really good points. Yasue's body, I don't really know about, but Caribou, I totally forgot about him. Characters I often forget about: Caribou, Weevil, I guess others, but I wouldn't remember about them, would I? They're characters I forget about. Tony America says, any chance the tragedy of Act 3 is secretly that of Kaido? Otherwise, we still haven't gotten a versus chapter title for Luffy, which would break the trend. We did get Luffy versus Kaido as a chapter title, I think, all the way back in Act 1. So there's that. Maybe the tragedy of Act 3 is that of Kaido, but Kaido's also not the protagonist. He's the antagonist, so I don't really know if it makes, like, it's not exactly a tragedy in that sense. Anime Dimension says, did you notice in chapter 1049, it looks like Luffy's lost one eye? I don't think Luffy's lost an eye. I don't think Luffy's lost it. Like, why? When would he even have lost, like, just exerting himself during the punch? It doesn't really make any sense. He just lost an eye because he punched really hard? Gary Coleman says, what was or will be Zunisha's purpose in this arc? I have no idea. Supreme Pirate King says, I read a theory that speculated Kaido believed Ace was possibly Joy Boy and tried to attend Marineford War because he wanted to save him. Yeah, I think that is a very, very valid theory. I have some thoughts on that as well. I don't think worth doing a video, but I might allude to some things that I think about that in a video that's coming up in a few weeks, probably. Ninobot says, Kaido is defeated! Exclamation point. People were saying the same delusional villain coming back with Dofi a decade ago! Exclamation. No, dude, I don't think so. I was reading Dressrosa Weekly, and I think most people were pretty clear with the fact that Doflamingo was defeated in chapter 791. I think that was pretty concrete. I don't remember that whatsoever. There was obviously Doflamingo seemingly defeated with Leo Bazooka, right? And that seemed like, yeah, Doflamingo's clearly not done. If you're talking about that, then I definitely agree. I remember that. Doflamingo seemingly done with Leo Bazooka, but then not actually done. Most people are like, yeah. Most people were pretty clear with Doflamingo not being done after Leo Bazooka, but I think everybody was pretty much on board. Like, yeah, they just beat Doflamingo after chapter 791. Paravision says, with the CP0 escaping and relaying Luffy versus Kaido situation, do you think Gorosei will send an admiral if there isn't one en route already? Or what do you think is the point of the CP0 escape otherwise? I do think that it is a good route for the Marines to try and invade Wano. And look, you guys know I've been saying this before. I do think that the purpose of the Marines potentially trying to invade Wano would provide a good distraction or third party to allow, alliance members basically to not be all hunted down and killed by Kaido and Big Mom after, if they're defeated here. Ivan back from the card shop says, just want to say if Big Mom really lost the way she did to bombs would be the equivalent of Croco losing because water fell on him from the surface. All I want to say, guys, is that if Big Mom actually lost to bombs, then to be honest, we could have skipped all of this and just had her lose to the Tamade Bako in the first place, right? That was the whole thing, right? How many times have they tried to kill Big Mom with explosives? First, Capone Beige shot that shit at her. That didn't work. Then the Tamade Bako box blew up. She was supposed to open that and die from it. Now she lands on Onigishima's bombs. That supposedly defeats her. Look, all I'll say is that if the Marines knew that bombs are such a... One, why not just have the Tamade we went all this way for her to just get blown up by some shit when she just barely avoided getting blown up back in her own arc. That's just kind of funny to me. And two, if the Marines, the Four Emperors of the Sea, right? They're the biggest threat in the world to the Marines. They're the people that they've been trying to take down for the longest, the most untouchable pirates. If the Marines only knew, that the secret to defeating Big Mom was just some bombs and a big hole, man, they would have probably paid good money to find that out some time ago, right? If they only knew that you could have just dropped Big Mom down a hole and dropped some bombs on her. That's it? I can't believe that the Marines intelligence, the Marines intel didn't pick up on that at some point. That Big Mom weakness might just be, let's just shoot her with some bombs and then drop her down a hole. Right? You tell me the Marines don't have some bombs that they can spare for Big Mom? They don't have some bombs that they can throw at Big Mom? Some TNT? Some dynamite? And maybe someone hire out some interns to dig a big hole? I did not know that would be that effective on Big Mom. Because we damn sure know that it wasn't Kid in Law's Awakening. She made that shit very clear. She brushed that right off. That shit was just tickling her. So it's mostly the work of the bombs and the big hole. So all I'm saying is, if I were one of the Marines, I'd be feeling pretty stupid right now. That this was basically the the secret. That was her kryptonite. Nothing too crazy. It's just some kryptonite. Not even a Pell caliber. It's not like a nuke. I've seen some people be like, they nuked Big Mom. Big Mom got nuked. No, Pell got nuked. You look at what happened to Big Mom. It's literally just some TNT. It's some TNT. It's some dynamite. Some dinamite. That's basically it. But yeah, I wonder if that would fly with, I'm thinking now basically Shanks. If they were to try to go after Shanks with some bombs and a big hole. Maybe with Shanks, they'd want to put some spikes at the bottom of the hole or something like that. Blackbeard, probably a viable solution there as well. Damn, if only at Marine Ford they'd gone after Whitebeard with just dug a big hole and chucked some bombs at him. That would have been crazy. Dad Canadian says Bomberman versus Big Mom, easiest 1v1 in history. All right, timeout. If Mr. 5 would have low-diff Big Mom, no question. Mr. 5 would have low-diff Big Mom. That's a guarantee. He's literally a bomb man, and that's her weakness. Old Green Knees says Act 4 is already laid out. Kinemon gives a number of the amount of soldiers that it would take to go to war versus the amount it takes just to have a raid. He sets up a war in story as foreshadowing. Could you point me to where that's talked about? That's actually a really interesting point. That's a really, really good point. I think that would be talked about probably like in the chapters leading up to the end of Act 3, right? Or not Act 3, Act 2, right? Pierce Sullivan says Usopp capture theory. If he's captured, then he will squeal and leak info immediately. But actually, it's lies, wasting the enemy's time repeatedly. That is such an awesome theory. I love that. That is such a cool theory. Because it's just like, it'd be like, it's classic Usopp. It's Usopp in his element, actually being brave, but using his lies to be brave. That'd be great. Judd Zor Season says Act 4 will be a new battle against world government with Kaido is dying to protect Joy Boy. Act 5 will be the creation of a new country, led and protected by the Straw Hats. That's an interesting theory. That'd be kind of crazy. I don't think that's the case, but that's an interesting theory. Radical Sal Ed says BB needs to take someone big down for Cloud after Wano. In your opinion, do you think it'll be Shanks, Aokiji, or Big Mom? I think at some point Blackbeard takes down Shanks, but I don't know if that's basically what do you call? I don't know if that's right after Wano. But then his lies wouldn't come true. That might be an exception. That might be an exception to the rule. Grizzly Adams says the most impressive way for Oda to introduce Vegapunk and SSG and or Green Bull into the story would be to have them fight two Yonko plus crews to a standstill. I mean, I would love to see the Marines basically showing out, holding their own against Kaido Big Mom or something along those lines, with the SSG actually doing something, you know. John Edwards says, Morge, how do you feel about the most recent JJK arc? I'm holding off on reading JJK till it gets a little further. Just because where I stopped was the end of the Shibuya incident arc. And I thought the Shibuya arc was great. I thought it was great. I'm waiting for, I guess, an arc or two to go by so I can binge some more because I caught up on the series binging and I just preferred, I'm fine. I don't love the series that much that I need to keep binging, need to keep reading it weekly. So I'm happy to wait and then binge again when it's in a state where it would be good to do that. Sean Easton says, forgot about my theory. Usopp torture and not squealing will lead to his hockey blooming. Yeah, I think that is also very, very likely. I think that's very, very likely. We're seeing some... You guys got some good matchup ideas for Big Mom here. Don Krieg with his big spear versus Big Mom. Coco says JJK fire, but these new curse techniques are reading like a novel. I think that JJK. I think the combat system has great potential. Last I left off on it. I think that it does not. I think it thinks that it establishes certain rules when, or it thinks that certain rules are definitely established when it's kind of just like throwing shit a little, like the way it's establishing rules, it's going a little by the seat of its pants a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's not. I don't feel like it's laying the foundation as clearly as it could be. Like explain, establish, showcase this rule, then move on, build on it, etc., etc. I think it's trying to fly through that a little bit, but it's its own style. Gary Coleman says, "What could Logia Awakening look like?" ? Hockey useless. I'm on the train that Logia Awakening might be something to do with manipulating the weather. Nothing too original. A lot of people believe that, but it's something that we've seen from Ace gets to Drum Kingdom and it doesn't snow. Crocodile potentially making it not rain. Things like that. Akainu Aokiji. The thing is, like, Akainu and Aokiji, we could realistically imagine them reshaping the island's climate just through pure combat, right? So it's not like, oh, we look at that, it's like, that's Awakening, right? It's like, oh, no, maybe like they just threw so much fire and ice that they reshaped the climate. So it's hard to say. Zaibatsu says, now that you mention it, maybe a big hole is the answer to everything. Kaido didn't lose to a big, strong punch. He lost to the big hole. Old Green Knee says, chapter 920, he mentions how he doesn't want war. I'm going to pull up chapter 920 right now. Let's see. Did he ever throw out numbers? Shoot. Why is this not moving? This isn't supposed to happen on this new computer. Flashbacks to stream freezing days. Okay, now we're good. I'll read this after. Read this after the stream. I do think that I mentioned this before, but the people of Wano are way too passive in this whole process. Nothing's really happened to them or changed anything for them, and like a lot of them really don't even realize at the moment that Kaido and Orochi were bad. Kami says our deal number is 5K strong. Yep. K-Nerb says that sounds like what Odin said too. Yeah, they've been trying to avoid war for a bit, but maybe the answer is just war at the end of the day. Chen Ho Wong has a good point. Your chair sucks, Morge, causing your shoulder pain. Lol, get a better chair. I don't think it's because of the chair, but I would actually kill for a better chair right now. I would actually kill for a better chair. I am getting a better chair. I have not yet ordered it, but it's it's one of the next things that's coming. I've ordered some things that are basically going to be going on the walls and stuff behind. Chair is one of the things. I was trying to figure out basically what color. There was debate as to what color. You guys suggested black last time. I'm inclined to agree. Probably going to go with the chair. But chair I might get from an actual store because maybe I want to like actually sit down in it to make sure it's good. Peter Andre Resurrected says, thoughts on Luca versus Warriors and Suns intermission. Lol. Luca versus the Suns is crazy. Luca was not supposed to beat the Suns at all. The Mavs were not supposed to beat the Suns. Like, in my mind, I was like, it'd be cool if it happened or whatever, but I did not think that the Mavs would beat the Suns outside of, like, if I was scripting the NBA or something. So Luca beating the Suns is insane. How the Suns lost is insane. Just everything about that is odd. I still think the Mavs lose to the Warriors. I think the Warriors are just going to be the better team, but I think Luca will give them a run for their money. Mr. Crescent says, do you think Dofi will... The Warriors are not playing well right now, though. It's being masked because they're kind of just, like, sliding by and, like, they've had some injuries go their way, but the Warriors are not playing well right now. Like, and it's kind of bothering me because, like, I'm actually hoping that they win the championship. They're kind of the horse that I'm kind of backing and hoping to win. But their attitude's kind of annoying me because, like, they keep talking about shit like, we got championship DNA, and that's what separates us and shit like that. We got championship DNA. We got the experience. These other guys don't have the experience. It's like, if you have to talk about it that much, just focus on winning. Like, you're not winning these games comfortably, and you guys are, like, turning the ball over millions of times. You guys don't look like experienced champions right now. Like, you beat the Grizzlies. I'm sure you would have won even if they had Ja Morant or whatever, but, like, it was not like you guys can't talk down to this, like, to these teams. Like, yeah, we got all these experienced players and stuff. We know what it takes to win. It's like, you guys need to, like, buckle up and actually fucking play good then, because you guys got lucky that last series. It could have easily gone to Game 7 if Ja Morant was still there, and it could have actually been much tighter. Mr. Crescent says, do you think Dofi will escape at some point and maybe fight the Five Elders or just return to the story in general? I think Doflamingo something could happen, but I also think it's very, very possible he actually legitimately does get assassinated. There. Also, is Anuj Agrawal here? Hey, Anuj, I will acknowledge Steph was a good defender. Steph, I watched closely this series. Steph played good defense. If Anuj Agrawal is here, I'll give you that. You're right. You were right. Ivan back from the card shop says, holy shit, there was a lot more Luffy attacks than I thought. Got them all now, though. Would you prefer the tier list order by form or attack types? Ivan, you are a hero. Is Ivan not a mod? No, Ivan's a mod. Guys, everyone say something good about Ivan in the chat. Ivan did it. He got a tier list ready. This will be next Monday's tier list. Luffy's best attacks. Ivan got a tier list ready. So everybody, if this was Twitch chat, I guess you could do some emotes and stuff. This is boring YouTube chat. But yeah, everyone congratulate Ivan. Thank you, Ivan. I appreciate it. Can you just at me at Twitter with the link to the thing? That should be good. Jon Snow says, would you prefer the tier list ordered by forms or attack types? I don't know what that means. Don't I order the tier list? Isn't that the fun of the tier list? I ordered it. Let's say form, and we'll find out what you mean later. Jon Snow, thanks. Jem Zach says, I hope the water in Onigashima goes when the Hokkaido's in so I can see what happens when the fish fruit is in water. That's an interesting idea. I wonder if it happens like that. KYD says heat in 6. maybe Heat Celtics is going to be brutal. I feel so bad for those two teams because they're just going to beat the shit out of each other. And the Celtics just have to play the Bucks, who also beat the shit out of them. Like, that's just going to be brutal. I think one thing people aren't keeping track of is like, yeah, the Celtics might win. Like, I don't think that's a bad call. But the Celtics are probably really fucking tired right now. Like, really, really. Like, that was a rough series. X-Red89 says, Samurai are too passive too. Kaido insults them as throwing their lives away, and they're all talking about being fine, dying, so Luffy wins. Yeah. Some of these things, it depends. It's like, well, should the villain be taken seriously here or not? But the people of Wano, it's definitely correct that they're taking shit way too, like, they're literally just like, please, somebody save us. That's their attitude. We're losers. We have our spirit broken. We have one day a year that we can, like, be happy. But let's all just be quiet and hush up because we don't want to fight back against Kaido and Orochi. That's for sure. Let's just pray that they get defeated somehow, some way by magic. Disaster Master says, hey, Morge, just caught the stream. No way Kaido is done right now. I agree. So many threads set up for Wano that haven't been answered yet. I agree. Guys, let me say again. Give it 2 chapters. 2 chapters before we start saying things either way. Disaster Master says, Ivan the GOAT. Yes, Ivan is the GOAT. Mr. Crescent says Ivan W. I agree. Jonas Ali says Kaido told his future self to lose to Luffy, lol. G4162 says, what will be the role of Garp in the story? Considering he's probably one of the absolute strongest and most influential. I'm probably going to call the stream in a second, guys, actually. Probably in the next five-ish minutes. I really should go lie down. What will be the role of Garp in the story, considering he's probably one of the absolute strongest and most influential characters alive? It's surprising how many people don't speculate on his future. I think that with Garp, like, it's just so hard to place, because he's strong, but we also know he's not in his prime anymore, so it's not like he's being pushed as one of the strongest characters. Like, nobody's calling Garp the strongest character in the world, pretty much. Maybe he was in the contention at one point, like, he was definitely probably in contention at one point, but we know he's not being portrayed like that now. So people aren't too interested in him for that. Like, we know he's on his decline, and we also know that just in terms of activity, he's trying to take a step back in the world, right? So he's trying to be less involved in the Marines, trying to do less things. So I feel like whatever role he plays towards the end of the story is going to be a more emotional or dramatic one, rather than like a very active, like, fighting somebody type of thing or something like that. Like, I've said before that I think it'd be cool if Garp finds himself fighting Sengoku or something, and like Garp ends up defecting from the Marines and fights on his family side, where Sengoku, even though he knows the Marines are in the wrong, he keeps fighting for duty, and maybe they come to an understanding or something, like, or a truce between each other, and like maybe they both just exempt themselves from the war. I don't know. Like, there's interesting things that could happen, but I think Garp probably more the emotional side is what is gonna. There's probably some good emotional, dramatic storyline to come out of Garp, maybe. Ivan back from the card shop says, lol, I meant you, do you want them grouped by like gears or by pistol next to each other? Oh, I see what you're saying. Shit. That's hard. I mean, because we'll recognize, like, we know jet pistol means gear second. We know, yeah, I think just by the techniques, like, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, let's do it by the gears. Let's do it by gears. Because, like, normal Gatling sucks. Normal, like, Luffy's normal Gatling attack, that was shit that he would use on fodder, and he would throw it out against strong guys like, you know, like Crocodile or like NL, and it would never work, right? Or like Lucci. Luffy's normal Gatling was a really generic attack, but Luffy's jet Gatling was the coolest shit ever, right? So there's a huge gap between how cool certain attacks are depending on what form it is. Remixing says, since we talk about the West matchup, what about the Eastern Conference Finals matchup? Heat and 6, in my opinion, superior defense, and as always, defense equals championships. Dude, they both have really strong defense. They both have really strong defense. I think there's no team right now that doesn't have good defense to some degree. I guess the Mavs, but they turned it up or whatever. Yeah, it's hard to say. I think that I kind of favor the Heat just because the Heat have beaten the Celtics before in, like, I think, 2 playoffs ago or whatever. And, like, I don't know, like, obviously totally different teams and stuff, but, like, I just have more faith in, like, how solid Jimmy Butler is kind of, like, mentally and how much of a leader he is and things like that. And I think talent-wise it's actually comparable across the board. And I think that Heat just might be like a little bit tougher. The Heat might just be a little bit tougher. And I think the edge at the end of the day, and I would love to be wrong, but I think at the end of the day, the edge just might be, they might be perfectly even, but the Celtics are probably just more beat up right now than the Heat. They might actually be perfectly even on paper, but the Celtics are coming off a really, really, really tough series. Mr. Crescent says, forgot to mention I made a color spread tier list if you want to use it to make up for a couple streams ago, lol. Mr. Crescent, that would 100% make up for the last stream. But a stream like that would be like a full day thing. But it would be really, really cool. Could you message me that on Twitter as well? We've got 2 banger tier lists coming up. Luffy's attacks and the color spread tier list. The color spread tier list will take forever, though. The fact that you did that is 100% makes up for everything. That'd be amazing. Disaster Master says, Yvonne the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Jonas, we covered that. Jonas Elise says, Kaido. No, we're past all this. Why am I so far back here? Why am I so far back here? What happened? All right, we're good. JP says, worries me that all of Wano's deviations from Oda's usual patterns is that he's actually rushing the story now and is getting sloppier in storytelling. I don't think that's the case. I just don't think that's the case because there's things that it seems like he's set up or hinted at that suggest that he has more plot threads in mind to be resolved in Wano. And also, it's just certain small things, which is like, I don't think Oda is necessarily rushing. I really, really don't, because I think that you can look at all of Onigashima and see, like, he's dictating how he's doing things in certain 10-chapter chunks. It's hard to explain, but, like, you can clearly tell, like, okay, 1,000, like, 990 to 1,000, that's going to be them getting up to the roof, right? 1,000 to 1,010, that's going to be the team battle versus Kaido and Big Mom, and that 1,010, that's going to wrap up, and it's just going to switch to Luffy, right? 1,010 to 1,020, that's going to be the Toby Roppo fight, stuff like that. 1,020 to 1,030, that's going to be a bit of a reset. The Toby Roppo fights are done. Luffy's coming back. Zoro and Sanji are getting onto the table. Kid and Law are getting onto the table, stuff like that. 1,030 to 1,040, that's going to be getting the big boy fights out of the way, right? So Zoro, Sanji, Kid and Law, they get their fights out of the way. Then 1,040 to 1,050, that seems like Luffy versus Kaido, exclusively devoted to that. Like, you can kind of see just how he chunked. Like, if you go out back and just see how he chunked out pretty much all of Act 3, most of it, from the time they arrive at Onigashima, kind of, it plays out in kind of clear 10-chapter chunks. And yeah, Oda does cut some things. Like, it's clear when it's either like, oh, I didn't have time to do this or that or some small thing. But you can tell, like, the broad strokes, he's getting to all of the big beats that he wants to get to. So I don't think that he's actually rushing. And I think that there's nobody on Earth right now that has the power to tell Oda that he has to rush his story, actually. I think he's doing it at his own pace. Yeah, I think I'm... All right, let me fly through these real quick. And then I'll probably call it soon. Justin Patterson says, does the bomb working on Big Mom nod towards Beige's plan in Whole Cake Island? Having her exhaust/drop the hockey before you can finish her, that's Kid and Law's efforts. I don't know, man. To me, as far as I could tell, she was still using hockey or some shit while Kid was trying to attack her. That's what it looked like. She even said it only tickled. Okay says, don't know if you addressed this already, but do you think Kid will ally with the Strats now that he knows Luffy's Joy Boy? I fucking hope not. Supreme King says, how do you think Zones have wills? Animal soul? That's what it sounds like, right? It's the beast. Okay. I think we're basically caught up. Give me 1 second. All right. Yeah, I think we're basically caught up. I'm going to answer. No more supers at all, please. No more supers. I'm just going to answer 2 more normal questions, and then I will see. Probably call it a stream. Dutang Bui says, how do you like the resolution of the Black Clover arc? Dislike the resolution of how the events of the arc played out, but I like the direction that it comes out going. So it's like you win some, you lose some. It successfully got me interested again in the series after thinking that it had lost I thought that it had lost everything, basically. Lost every aspect of appeal. Wade Turner says, go to the doctor. I'm going to go to sleep. All right? If a good night's rest doesn't help, well, it hasn't for the last 2 days. But if another good night's rest doesn't help, and then another good night's rest doesn't help after that, then I'll consider the doctor. But sometimes all you need is some good nights of rest. WH says, was that Luffy's hybrid form? And that's an interesting question. We don't actually know how these mythical zones work in terms of hybrid or not hybrid form. Like, it's hard to tell, like, It's just hard to tell. Like, is that his hybrid form? Is that pure form? What is it? I think the Nika fruit might also be like just a, what do you call, an exception to the rule. It's hard to say. All right, one last question. Everybody's talking about the arm. Leave the arm alone. You see how I feel next stream. LSD Vanzal says she never said tickled. She certainly didn't say it hurt. You need some milk, says Curtis Jackson. This isn't bone. It's not bone. It's definitely the rotator cuff. Or like rotator cuff. Like it's the muscle, basically. It's in that area. I don't know if that's what that is, basically, but it's in that area. I mean, Pierce Sullivan just says, like the stream before it's over, fellas. I agree. Let me see one last good question. Cam V Dam V says, do you think other than Zoro is strong? Do you think other than Zoro is strong, Oda did nothing for his character? I think that there's so many little things planted throughout the Wano arc that could still happen for Zoro's character. But it's just hard to say. It's just hard to say. It's not chiropractor. Yeah, I'm eating a healthy dinner right after this. All right. I think this is good enough. We're going to call it a day at this. Yeah. Yeah, not much more to say. I think basically, in case you all don't know, you can always catch these streams on the Morge Streams channel. So check it out on the Morge Streams channel.